You ever notice how some people move through life quietly, apologizing for existing? They say sorry when someone else bumps into them. They shrink a little when they speak, like they're trying to take up less space than they deserve. And if you really listen to them, not just their words, but the pauses between them, you can hear it, that small invisible echo of a childhood that didn't feel like love. See, not being loved as a child doesn't always look traumatic. It doesn't always mean cruelty or neglect. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's a mother who was too busy, a father who was too tired, or a home that was emotionally cold even if it was physically safe. You grow up in that kind of world and the lesson seeps in slowly. I guess I'm not worth the warmth. I guess I'm not worth the warmth. What's wild is how long that message stays. Psychology calls it attachment theory. Basically, the blueprint your brain builds for every relationship that comes after. If love wasn't safe back then, your nervous system remembers. So when someone loves you now, part of you flinches. You wait for it to end, you test it, sabotage it, or quietly assume it's a mistake. It's not because you want to ruin it. It's because somewhere deep down, you still believe you don't deserve it. That's what childhood emotional deprivation does. It doesn't just hurt you once. It rewires the way you expect the world to treat you. And here's the thing. Most people never realize that's what's happening. They just call themselves bad at relationships or too independent. But independence, when it's born from survival, isn't freedom, it's armor. You learn early that needing people gets you hurt, so you stop needing. You become the self-sufficient one, the caretaker, the problem solver. You take pride in being low maintenance. But the truth, you're just protecting the child inside you, who once reached out and got nothing back. Some psychologists call it emotional neglect, but that term feels too clinical for something so human. What it really feels like is standing outside a warm house in winter, pressing your hand to the window while everyone else seems to belong inside. You tell yourself you don't need it, that you're fine in the cold, but some nights you feel it, that quiet ache, that longing you can't quite name. And if you grew up without love, you probably became really good at reading the room, hyper aware of other people's moods, facial expressions, tone shifts, because when you're little, love isn't just affection, it's survival. Because when you're little, love isn't just affection, it's survival. Your nervous system turned into a radar for disconnection. It's a useful skill until it's not, because now, even in adulthood, that same radar fires when there's nothing wrong. Someone texts you okay, and your brain interprets it as they're mad. A friend takes a little longer to reply, and you feel abandoned. It's not drama, it's programming. Neuroscience shows that the brain of a neglected child actually develops differently. Areas tied to emotional regulation and self-worth light up in ways that show chronic stress patterns. Basically, your brain learns to expect rejection and builds defenses before it ever arrives. You grow up learning how to protect yourself from pain, but never how to receive love without suspicion. And here's the paradox. Those who are unloved often become the most loving adults because they know what it's like to go without. They overgive, overcompensate, and overextend. Trying to create for others what they never had, it's beautiful in one way, tragic in another, because they often end up giving so much that there's nothing left for themselves. Let me tell you something real. The hardest part about healing from an unloved childhood isn't forgiving your parents. Yeah, it's forgiving yourself for the years you believed it was your fault, for the way you kept chasing people who couldn't love you, for the ways you kept abandoning yourself just to feel wanted, but you weren't broken. You were adapting. Children don't stop loving their parents to survive. They stop loving themselves. Think about that. You were born with the natural instinct to seek warmth, comfort, connection. And when it wasn't given, your mind made a new rule. I must be the reason. That's how you stayed safe, by blaming yourself instead of facing the unbearable truth that maybe love wasn't guaranteed. And that rule doesn't just vanish when you grow up. It hides inside your achievements, your relationships, your work ethic. You start chasing approval like it's oxygen. You learn that love has to be earned. So you perform for it. You succeed. You please. You impress. But deep down, the goal isn't success, it's belonging. You tell yourself you're just ambitious, but sometimes that drive is a disguised ache. You're not trying to reach the top. You're trying to be enough. And it shows up everywhere in the way you overthink every text, in the way compliments make you uncomfortable, in how you downplay your pain, saying it's fine when it's not. You learn to wear a calm face, even when you're falling apart inside, and because that's what kept you safe back then. Hiding the need for love you didn't believe you could have. But here's something most people don't realize. That emptiness you feel, it's not proof that you're unlovable. It's proof that you were wired for love and something essential was missing. That ache isn't weakness. It's the body's way of reminding you what you deserve. The human brain literally depends on love for development. Studies by Harvard Center on the Developing Child show that emotional attunement, eye contact, soothing affection shapes neural pathways that regulate everything from self-esteem to empathy. Without that, the brain goes into chronic alert. It's always waiting for rejection, even when none is coming. So when you say things like, I don't trust easily, or say, I don't get attached, it's not personality, it's defense. But here's where it gets interesting. Healing doesn't mean tearing those walls down overnight. It means understanding why they're there and slowly teaching your nervous system that love can be safe. It starts small. You practice receiving without guilt. You allow someone's kindness without assuming they want something back. You let silence exist without panicking that it means rejection. That's how the rewiring begins, one safe moment at a time. And it's okay if it feels uncomfortable at first. Of course it does. Love to someone who's never felt secure, love can feel dangerous. Intimacy can feel like exposure. But over time, those safe experiences begin to overwrite the old scripts. You realize that love isn't earned, it's remembered. It's not something you have to chase, it's something you return to inside yourself. Because the truth is, the love you missed as a child isn't gone, it just never got expressed. And when you begin to offer it inward, everything shifts. You stop seeing yourself as broken and start seeing yourself as someone who survived by adapting. You stop asking, why didn't they love me, and start asking, why did I believe that made me unworthy? And that question, painful as it is, marks the beginning of real freedom. Because once you start asking that question, something inside you softens. The war you've been fighting against yourself begins to quiet down, and you start realizing that your whole personality wasn't really you. It was a map your younger self drew to survive. Healing from an unloved childhood doesn't happen through logic. It happens through small moments. Someone listens to you without interrupting. A friend remembers something you said weeks ago. You comfort yourself instead of criticizing yourself, and your body slowly begins to trust the world again. Sometimes it's as simple as looking at an old photo of yourself as a kid and whispering, you didn't deserve that, you deserved more. That's not weakness. That's repairing. It's giving to yourself what you should have received from others. It's realizing that you can be both the wounded child and the adult capable of healing that child. You start rewriting the messages you learned as a child. I am allowed to exist fully. Love is my birthright. And maybe that's the quiet superpower of those who grew up unloved. They understand the absence of warmth so deeply that when they finally find or create it, they treat it as sacred. You were wired for belonging, and maybe finally that person can be you.